Okay, here is my Abyss Challenge Floor 19 clear. I expect that this one will be the hardest one for me, but you watching the video will have a significantly easier time than I did clearing this one. It was very important for me that if you clicked on this video, that you would see 4 characters that you could actually realistically clear Basar with. If you have access to Moonlight 5-star heroes, this fight becomes significantly easier. If you have characters like Operator Sigret, Mediator Quirk, Archdemon Shadow, even Arbiter Vildred, this fight becomes significantly easier than what you see here in this actual video. But again, for me, it's really important when you click on these Abyss guides that it's not something that is completely ridiculous, that it's something that you can actually realistically accomplish. To get 3 stars against Basar, you need to bring 3 Dark Heroes. That is already in of itself pretty rough because most of the playable Dark units are Moonlight 5-star heroes, so the pool is not super big. On top of that, you need to inflict Basar with the weakness status. When Basar gets to 40% or 70% of his remaining health, he will dispel all buffs from your party and inflict you with the Sand Prison debuff. What this does is it decreases the amount of health that you get, and you'll take a small amount of damage to each end of each of your turns. Think of it very similar to the electrocution mechanic from the Gigantes, however you pronounce it, expedition. It's very akin to that. In order for you to not take the damage, you need to have a buff on all of your characters at the end of one of their turns. The thing is that characters can only buff themselves, very similar to how Pain Pursuer Moroi actually works. So you need to be bringing characters that can buff themselves. In order to get the weakness status to go away, you need one person on your team to end their turn with 3 or more buffs on them. So essentially, you need to find a character that can have 3 buffs by themselves. There are characters that can do this. A guildmate of mine informed me that Carmaine Rose, with her specialty change, is a character that can get 3 buffs on herself by herself. I do not play Carmaine Rose, so if you have her, that's fine. I chose Vivian for this because Vivian is a free-to-play character that everyone got with the Awaken update. On top of that, if she is holding her own artifact, Dignus Orb, which is, by statistics measures, the most common artifact that people play on Vivian, then you will have 3 buffs. If she uses her S3, she gives herself immunity, greater attack buff, and if you're playing Dignus Orb, you get a barrier. So you simply just need to, while you have the Sand Prison mechanic on you, press S3 with Vivian, and then you need to wait for Vivian to take 1 more turn in order to get the weakness buff on the Basar. Do not actually make that mistake. I did make that mistake in an earlier run where I put 3 buffs onto Vivian and then put a buff on everyone else before Vivian got her turn, and therefore it dispelled the Sand Prison, and I ended up not getting the weakness on the first go around. So you do need to wait for Vivian to come back around to actually get the weakness. So Vivian, I think, is going to be the core of most players' teams. There are other ways you could go about doing it. For sure, there are definitely characters and artifact combinations that can get 3 or more buffs for the weakness on the Basar. I leave that to you to figure out. But for most people, Vivian, I think, is going to be the most accessible option. Everyone has access to the character. She is free to play. And again, the most common artifact that is played on her will give you access to those 3 buffs, which will get the weakness debuff on the Basar. Now, it's everything else about this fight that's a nightmare, because again, if you don't have Moonlight 5 stars, you need to actually choose from what actually is available. And the biggest problem in the 4-star and lower Dark Pool is a seriously concerning lack of healing. So I chose BBK because BBK has the ability to heal herself, and also she is an AoE character. If you've been paying attention to the video that is playing in the background right now, you'll notice that I'm killing all of the wolves. That is because Basar constantly will dual attack with these wolves, and they provide a target mechanic on your characters, and that means that you're going to be taking a lot of damage. And again, the biggest hurdle for me was not being able to survive. It was very difficult to actually get a team that could sustain itself properly because Vivian is occupying essentially what should be my Soul Weaver slot. So I need to come up with a dark character that could actually help sustain us. So the 3 that I settled on, again, BBK for the lifesteal, as well as the AoE damage. She also could wear Alexa's Basket, which will provide a self buff which will help towards getting rid of the Sand Prison in the later stages so we don't take as much damage. For my frontliner, I chose Troublemaker Crozet here because he can hold Rise of a Monarch, which will help mitigate some of our damage. You could also play Aureus here if you so choose, and he can give himself a cleanse and a buff as well, so he will get the defense buff that will contribute towards helping us get rid of Sand Prison in a timely fashion. And then the last character I chose was Ainos holding Celestine. She can't really heal outside of her S3 without Celestine, so I think Celestine is kind of mandatory if you decide to go this route. You could play Requiem Roar. She will give you more sustain than Ainos, but she doesn't have a self buff. Ainos has a CR push built into her kit as a passive component, which will help you cycle turns in a timely fashion. She has a defense break on the S1 to help you race Basar. And then also her S3 is an AoE heal that gives a speed buff and attack buff to your entire team. So she has a speed buff and attack buff. BBK has Alexis Basket, the defense buff on the S3 for Troublemaker Crozet, and then obviously Vivian's S3. Those are all of the self buffs that are in my team and will help us get rid of the Sand Prison. You'll notice that between the first and second Sand Prison, I tried to take as long as possible, not actually burn any Archies or race him as fast as I can, because I want to make sure that my cooldowns actually come back up. Throughout this run, I come dangerously close to dying several times because Ainos simply doesn't really produce enough healing for this run. And she's on some pretty good gear for me. Again, this was like the bare bones, like worst team I could think of that could clear this actual run. If you have a character like Operator Segret or a character like Mediator Koeric, then this run again will be a lot easier for you. If you have stronger AoE characters, like I said before, Archdemon Shadow, then this is going to be a lot easier for you this run. I wasted a ton of time and took a ton of unnecessary damage from Basar because I took so long on this because my characters aren't that great. I am on my Hunt Vivian. I am on a failed build on BBK. If you were on an actual good build with like Destruction or even like Rage, you would do way, way better than mine. Mine was essentially a hodgepodge 6 resist set that I tried to throw on her to make her actually work. And then Troublemaker Crozet's just on some purple gear and things like that. But as you can see, like I come dangerously close to dying here multiple times, and as the fight goes on, Basar's going to start doing more and more damage here. Yeah, at this point, I'm just racing for the Archie. The Archie gives me the game. So to recap, though, kill the wolves, play 3 dark units, have more ML5s. You'll do a lot better than I did. As you can see, that extra health that is coming from BBK is really, really important. It's just one other character I don't have to worry about healing with Ainos' absolutely pitiful healing. I'm sure if I had her fully skilled and at level 60, it would be a lot better. As you can see, at this point, we are 100% playing for the Archie. So we S3 here. That gets us the last of the souls. And then we press Archia and we win. So there you have it. There's 3 stars on that floor with probably the worst team you could possibly use to clear this. Again, if you have Moonlight 5 stars, use them. It will make your life a hell of a lot easier than this clear video would. So again, here's my really bad BBK. As you can see, 3 Reforges missing. She's on Alexis Basket. Really not that good of a BBK. You can make a better one than mine for sure. Here's my Troublemaker Crozet. He's honestly kind of slow. He could be a bit faster, make it easier. Rise of a Monarch helps mitigate damage. Either that or Aureus. I tried Holy Sack. Really not that good for this fight. Here's my Hunt Vivian. 205 speed, make her faster for an easier run. And remember, Dignisorb, that will get you your 3 buffs for weakness. I think even if you decide not to play any of my dark units, Vivian will make your life a hell of a lot easier. Build around her. And then here's my Ainos. She is wearing my Para gear. Yeah, no skills whatsoever aside from what you can afford with just Stigma. And then she's on Celestine. Again, really fast, decent amount of effectiveness. I promise you, you could find a better character than Ainos. Like, this was literally the most budget-friendly option that I could possibly think of for this run. Again, so many other better characters. Blood Moon Haste has a heal, gives damage mitigation, could hold Celestine. Mediator Coeric, good with CR pushing, gives a lot of buffs, tanky. Operator Segret, Incision literally heals your team, provides a bunch of buffs as well in the form of attack buffs, so that helps you get through the Sand Prison phase. Again, really, really easy if you have ML 5 stars.